This week, I'm here with Alex Gross. Alex is the founder of AG Assist. AG Assist is the #1 virtual assistant company in New York, #3 in New Jersey, and has been expanding around the country, which we were just talking about before we got on the mics. We met, we're 15 months ago?
Yeah.
Right?
Year,
it was
year
at the Big Sirhan event last year. You were here.
Yes.
Schmoozing, wheeling and dealing. And, real estate agents are your bread and butter.
Bread and butter.
You work with other industries, but like real estate agents are your bread and butter because you used to be an agent, right?
Used to be an agent, still have a license with Keller Williams. Do a little bit of business still because, when you were doing it for so long. That's kind of why the main reason why I started this company.
Because you saw a pain point, and the entrepreneur, and the reason why I have people on this show is people who were doers. You were an agent, you saw pain points, and rather than like waiting for someone else to fix it, you fixed it.
Yeah, so basically how it got started though is I basically got a virtual assistant, and I used it. So I started in a credit repair business because I was like, you know what people need? They need to fix their credit so they can buy more houses, because you get somebody with bad credit, what are you going to do, right? And throughout the process, you could fix their credit. By the time their credit was fixed, they could, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, their credit was up to a 700, then they get a better rate, easier to close. And if you're helping somebody do something already, you might as well help them fix their credit. Well, I bought a credit repair business, and it came with a VA. And that's truthfully how I got into the business. I hated credit repair because it was terrible collecting money from people that weren't paying their bills already. It was awful.
But when you were doing the credit repair and people had to pay you to fix their credit,
correct,
was it an upfront payment, or was that something that
typically
you then sent
no?
them a bill?
In credit repair, by law, you can only collect money from people who you've fixed their credit already. You have to fix their credit. Federal Trade Commission says you have to do it this way. So that's how we started. So,
are you able to take their credit card number so that once their credit is fixed, you could just ding them, or do you have to then send them an invoice and hope that they pay?
No, technically you could do that. So what we did is we charged them like a membership fee up front, and a small amount to get started because we had to pay our people, and then collect on the back end, as you call it, getting deletions. So I bought this business, got it like a little before COVID. And it was kind of like, oh, this is going to be great for your clients, da-da-da-da-da. And then essentially I hated it, but it came with a virtual assistant. And it was like a business in a box I bought from someone who was like an entrepreneur. And then I got this virtual assistant, and she ran the whole business. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I'm paying this person, basically for an American, like, nothing compared to what I would pay somebody over here, right? And I was like, I need to start using this for real estate. So I got another one for real estate. And then it 2x my real estate, then 3x my real estate. And eventually I did no more paperwork, right? I was so bad at using the CRM, I never used my CRM. I never did my admin work. I would do deals, and I'd have like 20, 30, 40, 50 grand. And I'd have a check, but I was like, I'm not going to do this for another 5 days, right? Because I just didn't want to do all the paperwork to submit the deal. I was like, this is so annoying because I'm going to miss out on this. I'm just going to submit it all at once. And then some might take 2 weeks to submit a deal. And I was so backed up just doing that. Wasn't doing my lead generation. Wasn't following up with my clients. What do they say in real estate? I think Ryan always says this. You have to follow up between 10 and 15 times before you close a deal.
Yeah, Ryan's his #1 word of advice.
Yes.
#1 word of advice from Ryan Sirhan.
Yes.
Follow up, follow up.
Follow up.
Yes.
Follow up. And I don't think agents really do it, not because they don't want to do it, not because they don't know they should do it, just because they don't have the time in a lot of situations to do it, right? If you're a New York City agent, and this is who I vibe with when I first started this business a lot, is that you're on the move. A lot of agents are all around the city, right? They're in so many different places. They don't have the time. And most importantly, like, they're so focused on what's in front of them, they forget all the people that they meet on the day-to-day. They forget to plug them into their CRM, into their network. They forget to set up automations to follow up with them, right? I would say I have some of the biggest agents in the country right now, and they're still not doing the things you think they would be doing, right? They're making millions every year, but they're probably losing millions because they're not doing all the small tangible things. You know, the little things that you do as a business owner that you do consistently outweigh some of the major things that you do every day.
And I think the big thing for most agents who don't get a VA is the startup, is the education, is getting a VA who's going to understand what you need done. For me, let's say I want to send out an email for here's 12 listings, and I want an email sent out for each of them once a week, and having the VA set all that up, send them all out. Do they do reporting? How does all that work?
So when
and on top of that, not to cut you off,
Yeah.
also, how about sending out newsletters, or can you also touch on managing the CRM?
Yeah, so all this kind of stuff, right? This is like annoying things that agents want to do. This is what I always say. A VA, a really good one, should be doing between 50 and 70 different tasks for you every single month. And if they're not doing between 50 and 70 different tasks, you are not going to feel the difference. They need to be so intertwined in your business that you can't live without them. You know what I mean? Or you're replaceable. And this is why the business has become a success, because what we do firstly is we basically send out a list of all the things that they have to do. So an agent will say, well, I don't want you in all my communications. I have to be in all your communications. Well, I don't want to tell you. You have to tell me everything you do. I'm not going to share it with anybody else. I need to know everything you're doing, when you're doing it, why you're doing it. I need to have all your paperwork set up, and I'm going to go into your business. And this is really what makes us different, is that we're going to do business development. So we're going to go into your business. We're going to see what's working, what's not working. We're going to automate, and we're going to delegate. And we're going to go through your CRM. Here at Serhant, you have an SRM, right? So we know how to use the whole thing. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but majority of agents don't use it, right? You know, and the reason that they don't use it is because it's time consuming. And this is across the whole industry. This is not just a Serhant issue. This is an issue in every single company across the country. And the reason that agents simply do not use it is because to use a CRM correctly, you're going to spend 2 to 3 hours a day.
Also, it goes back to education. And the education on how to use a CRM and why to use a CRM is not part of when you become an agent.
Correct.
It's similar to, let's go back to high school, middle school. High school, middle school, you don't have econ, you don't have you don't have economics.
No.
You do not have accounting. You don't have money management classes in high school, which would be great for the future.
Yeah.
Just like as an agent, you don't have CRM training. You might have you can go on the back end and have a video about CRM, but you don't have people teaching you the why and the how. And that is why people don't implement it in what they do.
They give you instructions on how to use it, but they don't tell you why to use it. That is correct. That's actually a great point. I never even thought about that. The thing is that most agents know that they're supposed to be doing marketing. They know they're supposed to be doing lead gen. They know supposed to be, following up. I hate that word because it sounds like I'm following up, but they know they're supposed to be touching their clients, right? When I first got into real estate, I went to they sent me to this course.
Well, bring me back. When is this?
This is 15 years ago, right? I was 24. I'm 38, right? Or almost 15 years this year. And they used to have this guy, I forget his name, all the agents. So I started in rentals right here in the city. And everybody that was connected to city habitats would go to this guy's course. And it was like a rental training.
Was his office on Park Ave?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
And he used to wear sandals?
Yes.
Yeah, sandal.
Jeff. His name was Jeff, right?
He passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, passed away a few years ago. But this guy literally was talking about this 15 years ago, and he was talking about your sphere of influence and how you constantly had to touch people. And this is the most important part of any service-based business, is that 95% of agents, right? And this is what they say, 90% of agents aren't doing deals. Only 10% of agents are doing 90% of the deals, right? Because the best agents are doing all the small things that needs to be done, right? They're in everyone's face all the time, through paperwork, through their lead gen, through their marketing, through just caring more than someone else.
So let's touch on keywords. What is the word for all this?
Keywords?
Yeah, what's the word for all this? Agents who are doing 10% of the deals, or agents who are doing 90% of the deals are compiled of 10% of the agents, and most of them have a system.
They most have a system, correct. System, you're having a system is the most important. You know, we call them standard operating procedures, you know, SOPs.
Yeah.
So what we do as a company is that we're a consultant, right? And that's really what we are. I don't like to say we're a VA company because that's only 10% of what we do. 90% of what we do is evaluating and coaching. And that's what we do. We're going to give you someone who's going to make up all the stuff that you want to do that you haven't done, and then help you grow your business to add more people on so you can make more money. Because once your infrastructure, you can talk about it like a house, right? Once you have a foundation, you can grow your house out. And a lot of agents get stuck not building their team, not growing their team, not buying their time back, right? Not being able to delegate and automate because they simply don't know where to get started. So we give them a foundation to help them build where to get started, right? First thing we do with every single new person is we help them get organized. You have some of the biggest agents in the country that are not organized. They have 4,000 emails.
How do you help them get organized?
We'll put the VA in place, right? And we'll get them somebody that's already a shark, right? I like to call it the Sirhan's sharks. You know, Sirhan shark. It's like my little thing for Sirhan. And we give them a pit bull. And somebody's going to go in there. They're going to be a shark. And they're going to say, okay, sir, this is what you're doing. This is what you're not doing. And this is the first thing we do. We need to organize your emails. We need to organize your contacts. And we're going to basically put them in like an organized way of where to go, right? We're going to say, all right, this is who you're working with now. This is who you're not working with. This is who you haven't touched base with in a long time. So we're going to categorize them, right? And simple things. These are all simple things. But when you have 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 emails, you're just never going to do it. It's overwhelming. I'm not going to do it. It's overwhelming. Most agents are just focused on new business. They are not consistently working their sphere. When you close a client as an agent, that client should be the client for the rest of your life. And if you're not closing his kids, his uncles, his nieces, his nephews, or you're not getting that rental with him and it's not leading to 2 home purchases, then what are you doing? I think Ryan had a story about a guy he was helping. He met him in Starbucks, right? And I love his stories. That's why I always bring them up, because they're so relevant. He met him in Starbucks, or one day he followed up with him for like 10 years. He wasn't ready for him. The guy got divorced. He worked selling that house, helped buy that guy a new house, and then got his wife a house.
You missed the numbers. He helped the guy buy a home that was like $14 million.
$14 million, and then, yeah. I don't want to bring up the numbers.
And then his ex-wife, he got her a home for about $9 million.
Yeah. So the numbers are there because we have agents across the country, and they're all different price points, right? In New York City, it can be like, oh my God, big numbers. But it's not the money. It's the repetition of the system, like you said. And once you put that system in place, everything changes because you're able to finally relax and you're able to like just branch out. We have agents now that have 2 or 3, 4 agents working for them, and now they're getting more business for them because they have too much business. We have people calling rental listings in the Hamptons. I talked to a Hamptons agent today. He's like, I want to be known as the biggest rental guy in the Hamptons. So he has his VA reaching out to all the every single rental in the Hamptons that's available. He wants people to come to him, and it's a smart way to do it because every single rental will lead to another deal, which will lead to another deal.
So the VAs are reaching out to homeowners?
They're reaching out to clients. They're taking calls with clients. We specialize in getting virtual assistants that have next to no accent.
I love this. I love hearing about you. You're passionate.
Yeah. No, I love it.
You're passionate.
Yeah,
we spoke before we got on the mics. You were saying how, you try and go to sleep early because you're up early because the business that you do is really 24/7.
The business is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now.
So let's bring it back.
Yeah.
Why'd you become a real estate agent in the first place?
That's a great question.
Because before the pain point, there was.
That's a great question.
There was, the life before that. So who were you before virtual assistant business, which was the credit repair business, and before that you were an agent? How'd you become an agent?
I worked. So when I moved back from Florida, I went to school in Florida, came back here. I was about 22. I was going, I never really I was going to go to FAU, and then I bounced around some community colleges, and then I came back up here and finished. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. When I came back here, I moved to Washington Heights, well, Dykeman Street, right? Because that's the only thing I could afford. And I was working in restaurants because that's what I always did, right? And I got a job working at Louis Vuitton after that because my friend was the leather goods manager at Louis Vuitton on 57th Street. And this is the time when Louis Vuitton was really big. Kanye West had his birthday party there, blah, blah, blah. They paid me a lot of money to work there. I was getting $25 an hour 15 years ago. And at that time, that was good money, right? It was crazy. And I worked there, and I ended up getting fired because I was just messing around. I was 22, working with all these 50-year-old lifetime retail people, and they hated me because I was just so happy. I ended up getting fired for some nonsense. It was Louis Vuitton at that time.
What did you do?
Was insane.
You remember what you did?
No, I wasn't doing anything. I was I was making people look bad because I was making too much money part-time. I was a part-time person, and the people that were there were lazy, and they were stuck in their time, and they complained about different stuff. Oh, this person's doing this, but a lot of politics in all these places. Anyways, they ended up firing everybody there and changed the whole management. And it was a weird, that whole time, it was a crazy time. This was a time, I don't think people know. I don't know if we could say this, but this was a time when the women in New York City were so lonely and so much at this time. This is before Instagram and all these different things.
I was just going to say.
They would come in and bring us presents every week. All the women, because their husbands would be away, they'd be bored at the house, and they'd come in and bring us presents. And they were taking guys out on dinner. Oh, you want this? You want to buy? The girls were getting taken. It was a crazy thing in retail because there was no social media at the time. And that's when women would go out to meet people, and they'd go to all the stores, and they'd come in almost twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So you got to know these people, and you got too chummy with clients, and that was very badly looked upon by Louis Vuitton.
Absolutely. So do you hold any resentment towards Louis Vuitton as a brand?
No. I mean, it was an experience, and it was great that I got fired because that's what led me really into real estate. Because I worked for a restaurant at the time, Buddha Bar. I don't know if you remember, Buddha Bar was over here. This kid that ran it, strong, this is a crazy story, but stronged arm some woman in Georgia and stole all her money and opened up Buddha Bar. And it wasn't really he stole all her money back in Georgia, right? And this was going on at the time. And then the government came and shut down Buddha Bar and put a big lock on it because somehow the government got involved and found out this guy was mafioso and they shut down the restaurant. I was forced to get a new job. And this was also around 2008 when the economy started tanking. You know what I mean? This is when, I don't know if people remember, but I was working in the restaurant and we were packed every day. Before 2008, people really spent money in companies. People would come in, JP Morgan would give them, whatever, and they would come in and pay for a $50,000 dinner. This doesn't really happen anymore. The money, companies are more frugal with their money. But back in the day, you could go to a strip club and spend $200,000 in the strip club. It was normal. Now you can't do that. So people used to come into Buddha Bar, and I would seat 20 people at once and make $2,000 in a night as a waiter. Huh. So it was a crazy job. I'm 22 years old, 22 and almost 23. This was incredible. And all I did was drink at work, right? That's all you did at work as a waiter is you drink because you're there 12 hours and drink espresso. So we were there and we'd seat everybody all at once and the check would be, $50,000, right? It'd be insane. And then after that closed, I didn't know what to do. And my father was like, well, you should get into real estate, because
why?
Real estate is real. It's the only thing that's good in a bad economy.
What was your father doing at the time?
He's an
entrepreneur. What did he do while you were growing up?
Well, he's an entrepreneur. He's in fine arts and antiques. He had, an antique business forever. His friend has a store over here in the East Village. And that was always what I was around. And he owns a whole bunch of property. We own a farm up in Woodstock, 75 acres.
75 acres.
Yeah, it's a Woodstock farm. Well, my dad at the time, when New York was like, everybody was buying buildings at the time in the 80s and, early 90s, a lot of people were still nervous to buy in the city because the city was such a mess. So my dad, being a hippie, was going to be 80 years old this year, actually. He's a hippie. He used to hang out with like the guy who started Viacom, MTV and all this kind of stuff. He thought it was a good idea to buy a place in Woodstock because that's where the hippies
And
were.
75 acres.
Yeah, 75 acres, but his friends bought buildings in the city. Now those kids are billionaires and our farm's worth, $5 million or something, right? So it's a big discrepancy. They were buying these buildings in the 80s for nothing.
Yeah, but you have a lot of land. And
We got a lot of land, but there's a lot of land up there. I'm just saying economically, it would have been nice that I, could have a trust fund.
Yeah, but the direct correlation between that story and that part of the story and your business.
Yeah.
I mean, a way that you can pitch to your clients or people who you're trying to bring on as clients is the value in getting your time and your happiness back, and getting time, getting your time, your happiness,
Literally,
and being able to spend time on things that will make you better as a person and make you feel better, whether it's your family, your friends, your hobbies, things that'll make you a better person versus trying to work so hard. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the clients who you're bringing on are not salaried people.
Correct.
None of them are. They're all independent contractors. Yep. And for an independent contractor to spend money is scary. To spend money and not have a guarantee that they're going to get that money back or they're going to get a return on it is scary. Even if they know that that VA companies make sense. There's a reason why it's a growing industry. There's a reason why agent ABC uses them, but it's scary for them because there's no direct ROI that they can that they could associate it with. And that just, the story you were just saying reminded me of that. Just you guys having 75 acres, they might have a building worth 15 million and you have 75 acres worth 5 million, but would you rather a building worth 15 million with 25 tenants who complain about X, Y, and Z and dealing with all that headache, or 75 acres where you can go and when it's snowing out, hop on your snowmobile?
For tax purposes, you have to produce a certain amount of goods, right, on the farm. So we have all these guys, and this is an interesting fact. There in New York City, there's 2.5 million African Muslims, right? And their only food that they're going to eat is the food from the community.
2.5 million.
2.5 million, which is a crazy stat. And we have all these guys from Mali, salt of the earth, great. A lot of the places you go in New York City, you forget the people working there. These guys work in the garage, or they'll work in a car wash all day, and they'll come up to the farm. We gave them this land. My dad basically gave it to them for nothing because he wanted to make sure he was giving back in a sense. Charges them a little bit so they know that they have a responsibility. And then it helps us with their taxes. So they come up, set up all these greenhouses, set up all these different things, and they grow food from Mali. Mali is really a farming community in Africa. If you go on the news, it's terrible, wars and genocide happening there. But there's a lot of people from these African countries that you don't technically hear about. You hear about Nigeria, but you have all these other people in their farming communities. Basically, they're up there. They'll go up to 20, 30 deep slaughtering. We gave them land so they can slaughter, halal style. They have lamb, chickens, and then a whole bunch of different African vegetables that they grow and stuff like that, and they bring it down here and sell because they're only going to buy from this community. And it's pretty cool. And a lot of these guys live in the Bronx, and they come up to our farm, and they're doing farming stuff. 20, 30, 40 guys.
You guys should open up what was it? You guys should open up a Mali deli in the Bronx.
A Mali deli. I don't know. My dad does it. He's almost 80 years old, and he really did this just because he loves to see the farm working as a farm, right? We have houses up there we rent out and whatnot, but it's a beautiful thing to see stuff come out of the earth and you actually get to eat it, and it's real, and it helps people, and you feel good about it. And that's why I started this business. It's great to make money of doing something what you're doing, but I think just growing up, I think what was instilled in me was like service. Acts of service, no matter what we do in life, are the most fulfilling. I don't care what it is. Regardless if you make money off of it or not, you feel good. Because I can tell you, when I started this business, I was like 1, 2, 3 clients back to zero. 1, 2, 3 clients back to zero. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And it took me a long time to figure out what people really needed. And what they needed was, you know, they needed more communication. They needed to be told what to do. A lot of people that we work with, they've never had employees before. Or if they have, they haven't had people that were just employees and not agents. So we teach them how to be an employee, a boss, right? We show them what to do. The number one thing that we do with an agent typically is we sit down with them for a few hours almost every day on their first week, and we coach them step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after 2 weeks, they see the system, they see the processes, they understand the culture that we're giving them. We're giving them a culture for their team. What's the next step? Okay, this is what I would do. You know what? I like that. I'm going to actually work on something else because I saw where you're going with that. I had a mortgage broker, right? This guy's 50 something. I don't know. Maybe he's not 50. I don't want to say his age. Maybe he's in his late 40s. But he came on and he was so lost. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know where to go. It's been a couple months now.
But why would he know what to do?
He wouldn't know.
Why would he?
He wouldn't. And that's the biggest. That's a great point.
We're the same age.
Yep.
I would have a bit of an idea, but I'd still be a bit lost. And someone 10, 15 years my senior would be completely lost.
Correct. And that is what's the problem with this industry. Every single person that gets a VA has a 90% turnover in about 6 months because they don't know where to start. They don't know what tools to use. They don't know how to monitor them. They don't know how to be coached. And it goes great for 3 months. What happens is a problem in the 4th month? What happens if your VA starts lacking off? How do I keep them motivated? How do I watch them? There's so many things that need to happen on a day-to-day basis that aren't happening. What happens if your VA has somebody that dies, right? Their parents die. Well, I don't know what to do. What do I do with them? Well, what happens if they have to take 2 weeks off from work?
The VA.
Yeah. Does your business still run? So what do? We make sure that business is going to keep running even with them or without them there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have certain things that we do, right? So if we need to bring on somebody quick, we have an employee handbook that was already created. We have them recording Loom videos, right? So we'll switch them out, and within a week, we'll have a new person up and running.
Noted. You speaking about this right now is giving me an idea that I'll throw at you after we're recording. And that usually happens when I do these interviews, that I think of an idea for the person's business.
Yep.
And it generally works out really well.
Great. I love it.
And I hope that I'm able to support your business.
Yeah.
But let's go back to you.
Yeah.
Why did you get into real estate? Your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Your dad was like, Alexander, you're no longer working at the restaurant. You're no longer working in retail.
Yeah.
Real estate is real. Real estate's your calling.
Yeah.
And then what?
So I never did real. This is a funny story. So when you work in restaurants, right? Typically you go at 5 o'clock, and you hand in your resumes when the restaurant opens, right? So I had never had a real job before, so I didn't really know what to do. So I took my resumes and I went into every single real estate company that I thought I should start with in New York City, and I handed my resume to them. And most places were like, how the fuck did you get in here? So they were like, you can't do this. You got to send it online and da-da-da-da-da. I went to one place. It was a small brokerage. It's closed now. It was
this is all
absorbed.
in New Jersey.
This is in New York City.
Oh, all right.
I started in New York City. I was a New York City agent I didn't move to Jersey until a couple years ago during COVID, like everybody else. So I lived in Uptown, and then I lived in Queens and Astoria, but I worked in New York City for almost 12 years as a New York City agent, 11 maybe. And I didn't move there until during COVID, but that's how I got started. I went around and I handed my damn resume like I was working in a restaurant. And I finally went to one place. It's not open anymore, but it was called DJ Night, which turned into DJK.
Yeah.
And that's where I worked my whole time as an agent. And I became an agent, but I started doing corporate relocations for basically.
Yeah, I've done work with people from DJK.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Oh my God. I'm thinking like Midtown East rentals.
Yes. Yeah, we did a lot of those, right?
Midtown East rentals from like 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had old school guys in the office that were there for 40 years. You know what I mean? And real estate back in the 80s and 90s and all, it was a crazy time, the stories that I heard in real estate, but it was like the person that was running the office was an older woman, and she was like, oh, this kid hustles, man. He came in here, blah, blah, blah. She loved it, gave me a job. I worked my way up. It took me 6 months to do a deal. I was going to quit, right? And everyone's like, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. I finally started doing some rentals. At the time in New York City, they call them OPs, right? Owner pays, like the owner will pay you your commission.
What year are we at right now?
Shit.
Oh, so this must be like
14 years ago.
Okay.
I was 24.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This is, do you remember the blackout in New York City?
Of course.
It was like a little before the blackout,
Okay.
like a couple years before that.
Yeah, so you started right before the blackout,
Yep.
and I guess going from restaurant to real estate, what was the catalyst of keeping you in the business?
Yeah, so like, I don't know if we touched upon this, but basically my father was like, real estate is real. He was an entrepreneur, owned real estate.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the farm, but like, what was your dad doing that had an impact on you other than just owning property?
Yeah, so like, it was something that honestly, like, if we always look for acceptance of our parents, it was something that my father thought it was acceptable. So I thought that it would be a good thing to go into because my father would be proud of me, in a sense. And, we're always looking for our parents saying, oh, you're doing a good job. This is good. So I thought my father would be proud of me is really why I got into real estate. It's probably the number one thing. I mean, like, why we go to college, right? You got to go to college because you're going to be successful. You go to college. It's your parents like pushing it on you.
So we touched upon it earlier in the podcast where you started your VA business because you purchased a credit repair business.
Yes.
I guess it's more a matter of when did you realize, like, how far into it was it? 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, that the VA was the way to go?
Yeah, so when I had the credit repair company, which I absolutely hated because it was a pain in the butt collecting money.
When did you know that you hated it? Because you bought a business, and
Well,
how did you not jump ship after 2 weeks?
So I bought this business from this guy because my buddy was like, yo, listen, give me 10 grand. I'm going to give you an opportunity to make money without having to work. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Plus, it's going to help your clients. Yeah, I know. Plus, it's going to help your clients, fix their credit while you work. And it's going to be great because
not for nothing. You were also what, 20?
No. This was like 5 years ago. I was young.
Oh, wow.
I was in my 30s at the time. I had met this kid. I was new to online stuff, right? So I'm 38 years old.
Oh, so
at like 32.
Wait, hold on. So we missed we missed a big gap.
Yeah.
You were working in real estate for how many years?
I was working from when I was like 24, going to 25, till 32, 33, something like that.
Give me the timestamps of companies you were at.
I stayed at the same company.
DJK.
I was at DJK, which was like called DJ Night, and I was there from the beginning. Basically,
you were at DJK for 8 years.
Was longer until it was sold to Station Cities. They bought it, which was another corporate relocation company. So here in New York City, people don't know, like corporate relocations, basically companies will pay people to move, and it's 100% tax write-off. So you have people moving all around the world, moving their best and brightest, and there's companies that specialize in moving these people all around the world. This is huge in Asia. It's probably the biggest market right now. And it's huge in New York City because you have big banks and we have big tech firms, right? What people don't realize about New York City is New York City is the tech hub for the United States. There's more tech employees in New York City than there is anywhere in the United States.
I guess people don't realize that because it's the most people per capita, whereas like, Manhattan is pretty small. Manhattan's a small island, but we're on top of each other. Mm-hmm. Versus, being in like Miami, Austin, Northern California, where it takes up a lot more space. There's just so many more people in New York.
We're way more dense here. And what happened during, COVID is that everyone moved here. The East Coast is where everyone came because everything was closed and people are jumping from New York to Miami. New York City, when we were working with like Facebook, right? Facebook was going to have, I think, almost close to 14,000 employees here in New York City area. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a city. Facebook is massive here. Google is massive here. Anyway, so we serviced all these companies. I basically got in, earned my stripes. They gave me like problem. They call them basically no fee, like rentals. So basically we had to collect the fee from the client instead of collecting the fee from the company. So they gave me these as practice after I earned my stripes doing my own deals. And then I got in the club and I worked my way up. And then you made a couple $100,000 a year doing this. For me, being a young guy, 26, 27, 28, it was good money, and it was steady. And at the sense, it made me lazy because it was always consistent.
So then why 9-10 years later you didn't really jump ship, but why'd you pivot to going into this credit bill? We know why you went to the credit repair company, but then why did you, when the credit repair company wasn't working, why did you then pivot to a VA company?
Well, so great question. So when I was doing, when I got this business in a box is what they call it for the credit repair, I got a VA with it. Right. And she was trained in the credit repair space.
Right. You were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. And since I got this VA, I started using it and I realized how much stuff I hated to do that I needed to do. And that's really what I had her start doing, is all the things I didn't want to do every day that I knew would be successful for the business. And I said to myself, like, dude, you got to use her for real estate. This is crazy. So then I hired someone else. I said, do you have somebody else we could hire? So then I hired somebody else for real estate, and they started, 2Xing, then 3Xing, then 4Xing my business, because they started helping me build newsletters, staying in touch with clients, texting clients, doing all my back end work, all the little things that I never did as an agent. And it started to grow my business. And then I had an epiphany and I was like, wow, I got to get this for every single real estate. Every single real estate agent in this country needs an assistant, period. And I started, this is kind of my inception of AG Assist, and basically how I got into it.
The biggest obstacle is starting.
Yes.
You didn't have to start this VA company. You kind of had it fall into your lap. Is that fair to say?
It was my assistant's idea. So my assistant did that credit repair for me, was like, sir, we should start, because she helped me. We should.
She was a VA from out of the country?
She's from the Philippines.
Got it.
She's
It was her idea.
She's like my executive assistant today, operations manager. We have a lot of employees. We got like 20 employees now, which is kind of insane because it started with one. We have different parts of the business. Like I have a whole damn HR department that sources 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That's what I love about recording in New York City.
You hear the sound.
Yeah, that we're not in the podcast studio where it's just like we could be anywhere. Like we're in a studio within the building, and we got New York noise. These mics block out, but
you can still hear it. But
yeah.
The thing is that's why people want to be here, right? So for I was blessed enough to be in New York City as like a launching pad for this business, and I took advantage of me being here. This is the greatest city in the world for a reason. People say, oh, it's not, it really is. Like, it gave me an opportunity, to even like how I got into Sirhan is that I knew another agent and I was able to get people in your company. You know, I know we're jumping into the future here.
What has been your biggest badge of honor with your VA business?
Oh, by far, and this has happened 3 times this week. People call me, and I think it's a problem. So I am so traumatized because typically only people call me when there's problems. If a client is happy, typically you never hear from them, right? And I think this is the same thing in real estate. Clients are typically only calling you, wait, what's going on? What's the update? Did we get offers on this, right? It's always like when they want to know something or there's a problem. Oh, I'm going to have to pull this listing because you haven't sold it in 3 months and, you know, whatever. So I got a call on Friday from a guy who signed up with me, and he didn't sign up for an entire year. I actually met this guy in the gym. And I said to him, you need this system for your business. He's been in the business for 20 years, mortgage broker, and he knew he needed to make the next step. He needed an assistant. He needs help. He's trying to be out closing deals with clients, right? And this is typical. Mortgage is very similar to being an agent. You have to be out there actively getting business, going to sites, locations, meeting people. They want their mortgage guy there when they're closing. He does commercial. When they're closing a commercial deal, they want them to see the property, right? This is very common, right? So he's out in the streets, he's hustling, and he's not getting applications in. He's not getting deals in. He's not doing all these little intangible things that you need to do for a business. He called me on Friday. Took me about 4 months to get him settled. He called me on Friday and said, bro, I have a cigar event. I want you to come. I'm so freaking happy. I just closed another deal, and I closed this deal in 6 days. And I took this deal. I would have never taken this deal if I didn't have someone helping me because it was just too much work. And he's like, I don't know where to thank you. She's doing 50% of everything that I used to do. I think in another month or 2, she could be doing 90% of all the stuff I used to do. And I can just focus on clients. And I just hired my first 2 people to work for me. That was the call. I had a call with a Sirhan agent. I have it recorded. It's on my Instagram. I have 2 agents working for me now. I finally got myself all settled on the back end, and now I can hire people to work for me. And that's really what it's about, man. I feel so freaking good more than anything. It's like, yeah, we make a couple bucks doing this, but you know, there's studies and studies on this, is that doing things for others feels way better than doing them for yourself. But doing things for others that you can make money doing, you know, this is the only, and I care, man. It's one thing that I tell people all the time, we're just as invested in our clients' business as they are in their own. We care just as much as them making money as they do.
So what do the next 3 to 6 months look like for AG Assist? What's the rest of 2024 look like for you?
So we are going ham. So our company at this moment, we're ready to scale. What does that look like? So when you're ready to scale, you're never, as an entrepreneur.
Yesterday, you told me we're about to change the game.
We are changing.
Actually, that's not what you said.
No, that's
what
not.
did you tell me yesterday?
I said, we're not changing the game. We are the game. Something like that.
That's exactly what you said.
But you said it in a really cool voice.
I said it like this. We're not changing the game. We are the game. It was kind of like that.
Yeah, it was amazing. You were like a villain in a superhero movie. So what we're doing, no one else does. I can say that we have people charging double of what we charge. The reason I put the price point of where it's at is so people can scale the business. I want them to be able to have a price point. We're around $12 an hour. I want them to be able to get one person and say, you know what, I can get another now. I don't ever want to make it too expensive where they can't afford it. And it's all about them building out their business the way a Fortune 500 company. I have one person doing marketing. I have one person doing lead generation. I have one person, sole operations manager, controlling them. I have one person doing calls. I want them to build their business out as a lean, mean fighting machine where when you call them, they have different departments. I want every broker to see themselves as a Fortune 500 company. I want them to believe in themselves that much. And having people do what we do gives them that ability for a reasonable price. The future for everyone in this country, everyone in the world is going to outsource. You are going to have students 24 hours a day, they're going to be able to log on and they're going to be able to get tutoring at 2 o'clock in the morning right now because they spend $50 to $80 an hour tutoring. There's so many different things that they can do that it's going to change the game. And what I'm doing is I'm actually caring about helping people get better. Typically when you sign up with a company, right? I'm going to give you an example. It's a VA company. You're going to have a, company you saw online. They're going to source you applicants. They might be a couple good ones, a couple bad ones. They say, here you go. They're going to start tomorrow. We're going to collect the money. That's it. They disappear. So number one, you don't know what to do with them, right? You have no idea what to do with them. Number two, you don't know how to grow with them. You don't know what tools to set up. You haven't used say you're a solopreneur. You haven't used 15 CRMs. What CRM are you going to use? You're going to train them to use the CRM? Yeah, good luck. You're going to train them to use some new marketing tool? You don't even know what to use. So how are you going to know what to do? We take all of that away. What I like to say is that we're going to do 90% and you're going to do 10%. And the 10% that you're going to do, it's going to be the intricacies and the culture of you. And we're going to build upon that. We're going to grow it. And you're going to be the best version of yourself without having to do all that 90% back-end bullshit. And that's what I call it. The back-end bullshit is gone.
So if someone someone signs up,
Yep.
they become a client. Mm-hmm. At what point should they feel that they've had the weight taken off their shoulders? At what point should things be operating?
Great. That's an amazing...
seamlessly?
You have so many good questions.
That's what I do. I
that
ask questions.
That is an amazing question. So the first week is critical. The first week, what I really want people to do is give me an hour a day. You give me an hour a day and go through all the things that you're doing. Within the first week, your VA should be doing at least 10 tasks, I like to say. Within the first 2 weeks, 20. I like to have them by the end of the month doing 40 to 50 different tasks. So after 30 days, you can feel the difference. After 3 months, your life has changed. We call it a 30, 60, 90. We set up a 30-day plan, then the 60, then the 90. We're going to write it down. We're going to give it to you. And we're going to say, you have to do all these different things. We're going to coach you on the whole process. We're going to coach your VA. We're going to make sure they're motivated, you're motivated, and we're going to keep you together. The number one thing that agents don't do is they don't do what they're supposed to do, right? So I pull them back in and I say, hey, listen, I know you're really busy. We need to hop on a call. We need to get this sorted. We need to fix that. I'm in everything. If an agent doesn't give me the opportunity to be fully consumed in what they're doing, I can't work with them. Because the level that we're operating on, it has to be a certain height. It has to be a certain level. And if we're not able to do that, then I can't help you. They have to want to give me that as well. They have to want to be as committed. A lot of people sign up for things and they say, oh, it didn't work.
Well, because they're expecting the magic pill.
They're expecting it. And this technically...
There's only one magic pill in this world. It's called Ozempic.
Well, this technically is a magic pill. If you're giving me 10% of your time and I give you 90%, it's a game changer for you.
You got to work towards it.
You got to work towards it, but within 30 days, your life is a completely 180.
Amen.
Within 30 days. And that's the truth, man. And the agents that are committed to their business typically are committed. And those are typically the people we're going to sign up, because if we don't feel like you're a right fit, we're not going to take you.
So also speaking on committing to the business and self-education, what are you reading right now?
You always ask everybody this question.
Are you reading anything right now?
Well,
Just be honest.
Typically what I do for this business is I'm always seeing what people are doing, right? Recently, Tim Ferriss, right? He uses this one company. And because of this, who he uses, I'm not going to mention their name because I don't want to give him publicity, but a lot of people use him. He made the book, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Yep.
So I was trying to get into his head and start reading his book recently. And I want to understand why he uses this company. And it kind of irked me a little bit because he uses a company, they charge $3,000 a VA. They're named after like a Greek god. And I have people that work in that company. Their company's not as good as mine. So I don't even understand why he's using this company, because there's a significant amount of work involved in what he's doing. It doesn't even make sense to me. Like, why would he use a company where he has to do so much training? He has to have them so involved. Why is he using a company that kind of defeats his 4-hour work week?
Part of it is because of the reason why people don't use a VA in the first place is comfortability. And he wrote that book how many years ago, and he's comfortable with where he's at with that company.
He's going to be a $1 billion company. But the thing is, the crazy thing to me, the way his system is set up, I listened because I heard
I
him
love
on
that we keep using the word system.
Oh yeah, well you got that. The way his system is set up, that he has to do so much hands-on training himself. He personally has 20 VAs. I was listening to him in a podcast. I forget the name of the podcast, but he was talking about all these different things that he has to do. I eliminated all that stuff. So it's crazy that he's even paying that amount of money to get 1/10 of the service they get with me.
So this all was piggybacked on top of me asking you, what are you reading? Are you a podcast guy? Are you not reading anything? You're a podcast guy?
Well, I'm a big current events guy. I like to see what's going on. I read a tremendous amount on AI now because clients are always asking, how can we integrate AI in what we're doing? And frankly, I think AI is more of like, and I know that I'm probably going to get reamed for this. It's in the real estate business, it's more of a gimmick at this point. I don't think it's really authentically going to change the industry until you have somebody that is gonna scan you and they're gonna say, okay, this is what you're gonna do every day, all day. Go ahead and do it. We're using so many different applications in real estate. We're using so many different functions. We're using so many different things.
If Ryan Coyne could hear you now.
I know. I was with Coyne the other day, and I don't agree with everything. And I think that's because he thinks of it from his perspective. But agents do not do because they don't want to. They are focused on one thing only, and that's closing deals. And if they have to spend any time doing back-end stuff, using even 10 minutes having to use something, they don't want to do it. Agents that are busy want to delegate everything.
So that being said, if someone were to do, let's say, a 4-month trial, because 4 months is a good trial. Because like if you're doing, and we were talking about you putting ads out into Meta, Google Ads, but you were talking about putting 10K into ads.
10K in ads, yeah, and then we want to get up to 100.
Totally, but for you to beta test it, it's got to be like a 3-month trial to like beta test what you're doing, and after the first month, you're able to see what happened after the first month. For the second month, you could see what worked in the first month to carry over. Well, would you say that 3 months or 4 months or 5 months is best to beta test if a VA is for me?
It's a great question. It depends on the person. I have a girl. I signed up. She does title, right? And I love working with her because the first day she signed up, the second day she sent me 4 referrals. On her second day using the service, because she saw the value the first day that she was with me. What we do is we set them up with a group chat, right? I'm in everything. I see everything. We onboard them. We train them. We coach throughout the process. The coaching is the key to the success. Not only coaching the VA, but coaching the client. It is the key to the success of this business, because as real estate agents, you're constantly adjusting to the current market volatility, and we constantly adjust with you. Unless you have someone that knows how to do that, the success of your team is not gonna be great. You have to have somebody that understands real estate to the capacity that we do to know how to adjust with you. And that's what you get with me. And that's the difference maker in what I do. It's also understanding how a real estate agent thinks. And that's why I got in here. This is when Coyne interviewed me like 3 times. He was a tough interviewer. He's like, I like the fact that you get how real estate agents feel. And I get it. You guys are under a lot of pressure. You got to get things done fast. They got to be correct. You got to move the way the market moves. And you got to predict the future. It's a lot to do. And real estate agents.
As hard as it gets.
Real estate agents.
All while eating what you kill.
Eating what you kill. And you know what real estate agents are terrible at? And this is the biggest thing that's even changing with the NAR, what happened? Real estate agents are going to have to, and Ryan talks about this, they're going to have to build their brand better, right? And how are you going to build your brand when you don't do it to begin with? You're not going to do it. You need somebody to do it for you. But you know what real estate agents are terrible at? They're terrible at showing their clients all the stuff that they intrinsically do for that one listing. Oh, I'm going to do marketing. They don't break down the 25 different things they did for that marketing. There's so many things that you guys do. And this is why I say that a real estate agent should have a VA doing 50 to 70 different things. That's just a small thing of what you guys do, but that's on the back end. That's just on the back end. Imagine the clients knew the 150, 200 things you do for one listing. And it's probably that number, but they don't know. If people could show the value of what they do, that whole NAR thing wouldn't even exist. People think that agents don't do anything. The good agents are the hardest workers. Think about this. I did a referral the other day for something. I was like, oh, give me 15% referral. No problem. I'm going to give it to you, right? It had nothing to do with real estate. Real estate agents are getting 6%. That's not even the normal customary referral fee across the country, which is 10 to 15%. And they're doing all this work for the 6%?
Oh, it's all relative.
It's relative because agents don't know how to show their value. They're not good at it. So the best agents know how to lay out their value. So when you go to a listing presentation, they hire you. Why? Maybe you have the better social media. That's your resume, right? So if you're not working on your resume and your social media, why would they hire you? This guy's got 100,000 followers, engagement, selling stuff off his social media, right? How much stuff does Ryan sell off his social media? King of that. So why aren't you the king of that if this is what's working? Well, because I don't have the time. That's probably true. At Serhant, you have 200 people producing 40 different pieces of content a day across all platforms because you guys understand the value of social media. Agents don't. That's one small thing. That's huge. The average person spends 8 hours a day. Their average VA spends 8 hours a day on their social media every day, all day. They understand the KPIs, right? They understand the data behind it. They understand what ads are working. Real estate agents, they don't put out ads. They just have their listings, but they don't put out ads of anything else. I mean, there's so many things involved.
I've been testing meta ads, and it's cool. It works.
But when you find the ad that works for you,
yeah,
it's over.
So how many employees do you have right now?
20.
Where do you see yourself Q1 2025?
25 to 30 employees. We're going to be looking to do 20 to 30K a month on advertising. From that, we want to, probably bring in just numbers wise, like we would like to bring in, you want to try to 2 or 3X that, but it's not even the money. It's like, we would like to be helping agents wise, at least 200 to 300 agents per month. And the goal is to get this to about, we talk in VAs. So we would like to have like 1,100 VAs working within the next 2.5 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
You're
small sliver.
You're employing a village.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about it.
Or are you employing an apartment complex?
Well, the beautiful thing about this job, and people get all bent out about this, you're outsourcing. These people work for nothing. We pay our VAs really well. Number one, that's why they work for us. Number two is that a lot of times real estate agents can't afford to hire anyone here, right? Because it's too expensive. So once they afford to get a VA, they have the VA is making them money, like the calls I get. I just hired 2 more people to work for me. Once you get a Filipino working, you can typically hire 1 to 2 more Americans. So more people are going to be in this market as it grows. This market is the future, right? Like they say, what was that thing during COVID? They were saying the digital workforce is going to be 2/3 of the U.S. economy, and
growing. I think it's actually the gig economy.
The gig economy.
The gig economy by 2026 is going to be 50% of the economy.
Yeah. And this is the 50%. Every single American in the United States will be in some way outsourcing what they do. It is inevitable. What I'm doing is the future. The future that I'm doing now is going to be the standard within the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, you will have AI. Yes, it is going to be a tool. But who is going to run the tool? Not you. Because still it is going to take away from your quality of life. The biggest thing that we're pitching, the biggest thing that we started this business for was to buy your time back. Every single business owner, entrepreneur got into real estate, right? Because they wanted to be with their family. They said to themselves, this is going to help me get more time with my family. And then what happens? You're working 18 hours a day and it takes away from your family. So this gives people the ability to buy their time back, to help delegate, to help automate, which leads to, better work quality of life. Plain and simple.
Do you have any book recommendations about this?
Well, I mean,
what's one book that you would recommend to anybody?
What's one book that I'm a big reader of history. I like the books on Thomas Jefferson. I like the books on Abraham Lincoln.
Is there one book that sticks out in your mind that you would recommend to anybody?
I'm not,
Literally
I'm so bad at thinking of books, bro. I don't even know what the hell book I would recommend. I just read a lot of current events, man. I don't know. I'm a newspaper kind of guy.
Yeah, and you reading about Thomas Jefferson and Lincoln,
and history and
the history and like learning about
history repeats itself, right? So
yeah, but also like big reason why I love to read biographies. And the reason why I interview people is hearing the story and the life of doers, and biographies, the stories of great people, how they overcame stuff, how they thought, their thought process, what drove them, and being able to grab stuff from these great people, and it's inspiring, and you really implement it in your own life.
Yeah, I mean, it's the more that we know about ourselves. Like, listen, I've been in therapy for 6 years, and I say that therapy is the best business coach that I ever had. When I started this business, I was such a micromanager. I was stressed out. I didn't know how to deal with people. And I was a jerk kind of when I started this business. And I think that most people, when they get into one of the crucial parts that we have is we teach VAs, I don't even like to call them VAs. Operations specialists is what we really like to call them. And we teach them how to coexist with their, employer. And a lot of times people from New York, when I first started this business, they would get on the call. All right, we got to go quick. I got to da. We know how to slow them down. We know how to talk to them. We know how to tell them what to expect. We know how to manage their expectations along with their employee. And a lot of times they'll come back to us and say, you know what? I'm sorry that I didn't take your advice in the beginning. And then they're the best listeners.
Amen.
Then they know how to, and that's what we're really good at.
And to piggyback on that, give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
Oh, I've watched all your podcasts. You always ask all these. I should have been prepared for it. I think I was too excited. The best advice that you can have, and it's probably a cliche, is that when you feel like giving up, you can't. I mean, there's three things that we live by in this company. It's number one, what we hire for. It's three words. It's energy. Is a huge one. We look for people with energy. We look for people with accountability, and we look for people with coachability. Really believing in yourself, but always. And I can talk back to you, believing in ourselves, but always being able to take criticism and learning from it. And growing for it. We had a conversation where you coached me a little bit, and that made me so much better that day.
Well, I'll tell you this, because you are always, you're shooting from the hip. And while you don't have a team of people like me, and what I mean by that is like people of our age, our years of experience, who are building this with you, I also read a lot, and I read a lot on human interaction. I read a lot on conversation, how to talk to people, negotiation, empathy.
Yeah.
My most important thing in life is empathy. When you're talking to anybody, the most important thing in life is empathy, and empathy always wins. So when we had that conversation, it was me helping you take a step back, read the room, read the conversation that you're having here and you're reading here, and look at it from an empathetic lens. Pair that with your business, and then, boom. Shoot your target.
It's so true. I think coachability, that's probably the best word. You being able to coach someone and them being able to coach you. You have to know that you believe in yourself, but know that you can make mistakes. But when you make the mistake, you're going to learn from it. Every single mistake that we learn in this company is a new standard operating procedure. Every time. And because I have a team, they instantly write me that SOP, which is actually something good with ChatGPT. It's very good. If you take anything out of this, ChatGPT is great for writing standard operating procedures that you do not want to write for your company employee handbook. If you're one agent, you should have the employee handbook of you. and this is going to be passed on for everyone. You got to be able to coach someone, but also be able to take the criticism to coach yourself. Because I made 200-300 mistakes, and I'm going to continue to make mistakes and take accountability, and that's your superpower, you know. And you're only going to get better. That's
Amen.
it.
And
there's only one way to go.
Thank you for coming all the way to the studio
From 10 minutes in Jersey.
from 10 minutes in Jersey. Alex Gross, AG Assists, #1 VA company in the world soon. Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's see.
we have no other choice to be. As long as we stick with what our core principles are as a company, you know, integrity is a huge one. You know, I'm going to actually finish with this. And this is the last thing. I first started with Serhant, and we had an issue with a VA. And it was bad, and it failed, and it didn't work, and it happens in business, right? And shit happens. And I kept giving free weeks. Free week after free week until it was fixed. And then we fixed it. We course corrected. And Coin said to me, which I love Coin, and this is why I actually love Serhant, is because this company has amazing integrity. And the values and principles here as a company is probably, if maybe the best in the industry. I don't know, but it's up there. And I don't want to throw anybody else because there's great agents at other companies, but that's why I love this company. And he had said to me, because you did the right thing and you have so much integrity, we're going to keep working with you. And that was like, and Coin wonders why I'm his biggest fan, and why I love you guys here at Serhant, is because I see that in every single person that works at this company. And I see that as a core value, that you guys have incredible integrity across everything you do here. And at the end of the day, that only leads to great success. And that's what I see in our business as well. So, you know, it changed me.
Now, one last question before we sign off. Mm-hmm. Who do you think at Serhant is more influential, Ryan Coin or Ryan Serhant?
Oh, the double
That's
R's.
a quick answer.
If I don't want to get burnt, I don't want people to get pissed off with what I'm going to say right now. But I think Ryan is an ultimate showman. He gets people in here, cares, he loves it. And I think Coin, you know, he's like the glitz and glam, because without that, he's the great marketer. But Coin also is part of the glue of why people stay. I think they are two different sides of the coin, and they're perfectly matched together to have like a beautiful relationship. They each are equally very good at what they do, but ultimately completely different at what they do. And that's exactly why this company is just an incredible company. They are two different people doing things amazingly different, but beautifully together at the same time. And I'll say this, and this is how it's supposed to be with your VA. Last thing I'm saying is that when I was in Long Island at the event they were doing in Long Island, this is the relationship that you need with your VA and your team and whoever you're working with. Last thing I'm going to say, Ryan said their relationship is so strong that when he called Coin picked up and was like, hey, yeah, I already know what you're talking about. I'm on it. And took care of it. And that's what it is. Peanut butter and jelly, arroz con pollo. If people are not knowing what you're thinking and they're completely symbiotic with you, it doesn't work. And that's what you need with your team. Symbiosis.
And we're out.
Integrity. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.